Hey everybody, how you going? I suppose I'll stand up here as obviously having a vested interest on both sides of the fence here. To many of you, you'll know me as obviously a fellow Melbourne Angels investor, and on the other side of the fence, I'm an accountant / advisor for a handful of Melbourne Angels investors as well. So ESIC is pretty paramount and pretty critical to both me as a person, as an investor and a fellow investor, but also to a number of my clients. So has been something that I've been heavily involved in now for since its inception or since its origin. So today, it wasn't really necessarily going to talk about the technical aspects of it. It's really talking about the process we're approaching to addressing, I guess, ensuring that our clients and obviously our investors' interests are qualifying, and I guess some of you have already probably been recipients of some of the work that my firm has done to date. So I think the most probably critical thing I always say, both to startup businesses and to investors alike, ESIC is really the icing on the cake. We're going to invest in these businesses for a whole heap of other reasons, and ESIC just sweetens the deal just that little bit. A lot, actually, I suppose, if you can get it capital gains tax free. So let's not kid ourselves. But the reality is we're going to dive in anyway. I think the key part to it, and when you reflect on the Melbourne Angels type deals, the reality is most of them are going to qualify as an ESIC, subject to a couple of qualifications. So I think the reality is the types of entities that we're looking at, and the types of business we're looking at, most of them will tick the boxes, and I think that's a pretty open observation. So, as I suppose has probably been evolving out of this revised shareholder agreement, part of the condition precedent is to have the investor or investee company provide certification of ESIC qualification. And part of that, I guess, is as our firm has that option of providing that guidance to them. So what you'll find, and I think you've got a copy of a template advice that we've been given, or we give our ESIC clients, and I think you'll find that it kind of follows a pretty sequential step. And as I said, it is pretty a reasonably rudimentary process. One is ticking the box. Are they an early stage company? There's kind of three pretty conventional tests that you need to meet: date of incorporation and some financial metrics, and a listing issue. So that's pretty straightforward. Then we really go into a test of whether we qualify under what's called a 100-point test or a principle-based test. And depending on the stage of our investee companies, will depend on which angle we take. But in our assessments to date, the principle-based test is by far the easiest ones to meet. The other one's very much a points test, and you've got to meet some very strict guidelines to qualify that. But the reality is, when you look at the concepts of the principle-based test, are they an innovative company? Are they built for scalability? All the things that we look for as investors are effectively the same tests that we're assessing for principle test. So when you look at the conditions that we sort of evaluate, the ESIC concessions basically follow the same principles. So the comfort, I guess, that we have is that, I go back to, a lot of the investments that we look at on face value will qualify with some certain rudimentary process to it. So what's our process in signing off on whether a company qualifies? It's information gathering. The fortune we have with the information gets populated in Gust, for example, for a Melbourne Angels deal, it's all there served up on a platter. We often ask for pitch decks, business plans, financials, shareholder agreement, all the things that we effectively get pre-populated into Gust formulates the backbone for us signing off on our advice. In addition to that, we've got a sort of a standard checklist that we share with the company, which they pre-populate and share with us as well. So there's quite a comprehensive due diligence process on signing off on somebody being ESIC. Obviously, it's brand reputation for us, but the second, obviously, again, going back to the vested interest, I've got as much importance on getting the ESIC qualification as everybody else does. So didn't want to sort of go this into great detail. Was there any particular questions that anybody had about the ESIC process? I know there's a couple that I can think of. Yeah.
Is that an option either or in relation to the 100 points or the other alternative?
It is. We typically lean towards going through the principle-based test first, simply because it's just, we found it easier to qualify for.
Because it's a new area of the law though, at the end of the day when you go and claim the benefits of the ESIC,
Yep.
will it stack up? Is there any risk with taking the principles-based approach?
Well, yes, there is always risk, but there is risk with the 100 points test as well, I guess, because you've got to make sure you qualify based on the point system. So you're only really relying on the information that's provided to you at that time. You know, if you want absolute certainty, you can always go for a private ruling with the tax office, but you can be waiting months. But I'll say very confidently, I wouldn't be saying it's an ESIC company if I didn't think we would get the right answer out of the tax office going through a PBR, a private ruling process. So, I'm not sure if that answers your question per se, but yeah.
No.
Yeah. But I think the answer is, you get a piece of advice, you can rely on that. We're wrong, you sue us. Did I just say that out loud? It's just fact, isn't it? So I'm stating fact, not making a mockery out of it, that's for sure. Sorry. Morris?
The old Dorothy Dixer. We can invest individually, family trust, super fund taxable, super fund non-taxable.
Yep.
Given ESIC now, it obviously, with the capital gains tax-free, it probably swings the pendulum away from the super fund back into the sort of family trust realm?
That's personal preference, I guess. And but from a pure tax benefit point of view, well, a tax-free environment's a tax-free environment, so it depends on where you're at from a super fund point of view. If you can get your cash out because you've reached a maturity age where you can get it, great. But yeah, it's personal preference that. The obstacle I think that we just need to be mindful of, there's a couple of earlier investments that have been made through Melbourne Angels Unit Trust. That still gets the ESIC environment, but the 20% offset doesn't flow through to us yet, simply because there's no distributable income in the trust, so we can't get the flow through. So I've had that issue with a recent client, and not a Melbourne Angels client. They've got a syndicated group of investors, and we've suggested a bare trust so we can get that pushed through. But that'll be the only sort of advice I'd give on that. Yep.
David, can you elaborate on the limitations of individual investors claiming the ESIC benefit if they become a director or take up a substantial role within the company?
Yep, so there is a condition that you can't be an affiliate of the company. But that's an assessment we do, and we've got a live issue at the moment we've been working with a client about, as to are you so an affiliate is somebody that's got an influence over the company and has the ability to direct and so forth. And ultimately there's one individual or one class of individuals that fit within that bucket, and that's the director. So the argument that we've got is that at your point of investing, one of the conditions obviously is that we can take the option to become a director. Up until that point, we're not an affiliate. So at the time of investment, you qualify, you become a director at a later date. Now, if you're already a director of that existing company, then I think you as a person will have a problem with it.
So follow up, if the shareholder deed gives us, Melbourne Angels...
But there's workarounds on that too, by the way.
Gives Melbourne Angels certain rights, does that mean we become an affiliate?
At time of investment, sorry. So when you hand over your cheque to invest in the company...
So you've signed the deed, or the company's signed the deed, we've signed the deed.
Yep.
Does that mean we've got special rights, which means we can influence the company, direct it?
I wouldn't say at that point in time.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sorry, one more?
I'm not familiar with ESIC, so I've got two questions. One is, where do I go to learn about it? And second thing is...
I'll give you a business card.
Okay. The second thing is the quid pro quo of capital gains tax being free on this, that if the investment crashes, you don't get a capital loss to use, or not?
No, actually, no, I think it's, well, no, that's right, because it's capital gains tax free, so you don't get the loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But we don't want a capital loss, we're always banking for a capital gain.
There's a pinch of realism in me, though.
Yeah, I know. I've realised that too myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.